Lame!
Oh, I missed one.
This is Rad, and he is not comfortable being himself. But watching him overcome this trait is why people love his character so much. Over the course of the show, we learn why he is this way, how he acts around people because of it, and how he ends up becoming better by the end of the series. The episode's second first date set up Rad's relationship with his best friends, Mega Football Baby and Belle Beefer, who are your typical high school jock type characters. They are the main reason behind not only Rad's toxic behaviors, but his lack of confidence in who he really is. In Second First Date, an episode I've talked about before on this channel, we see a middle school Rad get a date with Enid, and we can clearly see that Rad is not the same macho meathead that he pretends to be now. You see, Rad was a goofball.
Oh, you dropped this, right?
When Belle Beefer and MFB find out about this, they immediately display their influence on Rad. Instead of offering any good advice on how to conduct himself on his date, they tell him to act like a complete jerk because apparently girls like that. I mean, shit, it could be true, I don't fucking know. Anyways, this causes Rad to end up acting out of himself, and we see that instead of being the nice person he genuinely wanted to be, he has to force himself to be a jerk. And we even get to see this internal battle with his friends quite literally being in his ear. Rad's date ends up going horribly as a result, with Enid viewing him as a total jerk and crashing out as she should. So Rad, having just ruined his chance with a girl he genuinely liked, decides to do what all teenage guys do after taking an L. Doubling down on his toxic behaviors and not learning anything.
I could date anyone I want.
Yeah! Double down!
Double down! Double down! Double down! And I've doubled down on that strat ever since.
In the episode Radicle Rescue, Belle Beefer and MFB visit the plaza and play a game with Rad and K.O. called Cool or Lame, where they basically go through each other's galleries and determine whether their photos are cool or whether they're lame. Now, what constitutes a photo being actually cool or actually lame? Whatever these two niggas think is cool and lame. Problem is, this episode reveals that Rad loves cats and actually works part-time as a cat shelter, something which is definitely not cool in his friend's eyes. So instead of doubling down on his passions, he intentionally tries to hide it or explain it away with some sort of excuse. This isn't the only time he does this, and it's shown to be a pattern that began in the very beginning of his friendship with these two. This leads me on to my next point, Rad's actions and how he treats people around him as a result of these insecurities. In order to get the respect of his peers, not only just Belle Beefer and MFB, Rad constantly feels the need to seem cool or lie or act like he's always in control over a situation even when he's not. When his friends see a picture of Rad with a girl, he lies and says that's his girlfriend. When Rad gets pressed about the picture of a cat on his phone, he lies and says that it belongs to his girlfriend. As we saw on Second First Date, he tries to seem cool to Enid by being an asshole without realizing that Enid actually liked him for him. Do You Have Any More in the Back focuses on this aspect even more, with Rad leading K.O. and Enid on a wild goose chase throughout the underground tunnels of the plaza in search of a product for a customer. He displays an insane amount of arrogance by claiming that he knows everything about the bodega just to impress K.O. Rad actually has a pretty big influence on K.O. and he sees him as the ideal role model. However, after Rad gets them lost, hurt, and attacked multiple times, this illusion slowly starts to slip and he sees Rad for who he truly is. Someone who fronts and puts on a persona in order to seem cooler than he thinks he is.
You really look up to Rad, huh? But you know, nobody's perfect, not even the people you look up to. You should try looking at Rad for who he really is, not for who you want him to be.
Enid feels the same way, being more than wise to Rad's dickhead behavior. Enid knows that Rad is a different person than he was when they were in middle school, or at least pretending to be. He absolutely blew it, but because his arrogance refuses to let him believe that he did anything wrong, he instead shifts the blame to her. They end up going on a whole second first date. Great title. Even though they aren't going to be any sort of couple, he still feels the need to prove himself right, which he isn't. It doesn't really matter though, because he gets absolutely washed on this date and Enid lets him know how she really feels about who he's become.
Forget this date.
What?
You're still a brash, macho meathead, even though you can pretend to be sweet.
Enid and K.O. have absolutely no problem with checking Rad for his behavior, and the show makes it a point that all of Rad's projecting of this persona does nothing but harm the people he cares about. What makes this interaction between these two even more interesting is that Enid also struggles with identity in the show, having to hide her ninja persona from her parents and friends before she can finally accept it. In a way, these two are actually not that different from one another, and if you want to see a video delving into Enid's insecurities and struggle with identity, let me know. So far, we've seen that Rad is an egotistical, lying, fake-ass nigga, keeping it completely a buck. So why do I like him so much? What makes his character even the slightest bit endearing is the simple fact that instead of staying this way throughout the show, his character slowly develops, which leads to a defining moment for him. After his interactions with Belle Beaver and MFB, K.O. decides to do what all 6 to 11-year-olds do when they see someone who seems cool: imitate them.
Lame. Lame.
Oh no! That's not my K.O.
Rad seeing K.O. imitating his friends and calling shit lame and all that really does something to him. Seeing K.O. go down a path and emulating behaviors that he knows are not good for any young person genuinely makes him feel shitty. This is essentially what happened to him when he was younger and led him to not being able to talk about his actual passions with his quote-unquote friends. So he makes sure to check K.O. about this behavior and lets him know that being cool isn't all it's cut out to be and that he'd be better off being himself.
It's great that you look up to me and stuff, but there's things about me you shouldn't look up to. I don't want you to go around making fun of things people like.
This is a full circle moment for his character, as he not only acknowledges his own shortcomings, but also stops someone from going down the same road as him. There were signs of this maturing before in episodes like Second First Date, where Rad finally apologizes for being a fake ass bitch. But what makes this different from his progression later on is that he still isn't completely confident in admitting his faults, as shown by how he gets embarrassed when Enid pokes fun at him for actually admitting that he made a mistake. What makes this even more different though is that by the time we get back to Radicle Rescue, he's finally built up enough courage to attack the source of his problems, his fake friends, defeating them in a power battle where he wins by fully accepting who he is and what he stands for regardless of what they think, which I feel is not only a nice moral to teach to anyone, but also puts a nice bow on the character of Radicles.
And this picture of an adorable kitten? Her name's Teacup, and I love her, 'cause kittens aren't lame. I think they're cool!
Thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed. Subscribe to the Patreon if you are so inclined. Have a good day, and take care.